Thank you. And thank Esther for her brilliance and all that she does, and her sharing and allowing Abraham to use all of her wonderful examples of her living, and she's a wonderful role model.
We blab everything.
Well, Abraham, I've been wanting to talk to you about my research. I've been blessed with getting a grant, $1.2 million, to study a very innovative type of intervention. And it's leading edge, it's cutting edge, it's all Abraham, and it's about infralow frequencies and helping people. We've been able to isolate these infralow frequencies and feed it back to people, and it's the brainwave frequencies. And when they see it, it actually, what we're finding is that it's self-correcting any issues. Presently, I'm looking at veterans who've had multiple concussions and have been having a long time issues with headaches and with attention and their sleep. And within a few sessions of them seeing their brainwave, seeing this infralow frequency of their brainwave, isolating it, it's almost as if they're self-correcting.
Are you presenting scenarios to them that they are responding to?
They're not. I believe it's on a cellular level. Yes, it's their scenarios that is reflecting how their brain is actually doing.
Brains do different things at different times, so how are you isolating what you're reading? We're asking something as rudimentary as, can you tell if they're lower half of the scale or upper half of the scale? Is what you're reading giving you, so it's not emotional feedback? I'm getting feedback from the person as I'm isolating exactly where they need or want to be, the setting, the particular frequency that is best for them to see itself. And how do they know? How do they know what that setting is?
They don't know. They just tell me how they're feeling. And so they may have racing thoughts, and as I'm adjusting the frequency along this infralow frequency, 1 hertz or microhertz, I asked, tell me what your racing thoughts now are out of that 10 score, because usually it's a 10 out of 10 when they begin.
We don't want the details of it because it's too much to take in, but we are wanting to discuss. So, do you think these are people that don't have access to their emotional guidance system?
I think they do.
You think they do?
I think, of course, they have access to it.
Well,
but
what we mean by that is, are they trending so much on the lower half of the scale that they can't get hold of their thoughts? Do they not have control of their thoughts? In other words, why are you establishing the frequency that they are tuning to?
From their feedback. It's not why, but what I am doing is that I'm finding, it's almost as if when I find their correct frequency.
But how do you know what their correct frequency is?
It's from their feedback. It's this beautiful feedback loop. It's this beautiful feedback loop. And as we get closer, their racing thoughts get less and even disappear. And they just feel more calm.
What if Esther was on your equipment,
yes,
and she was manic is not the right word, but thrilled, and her mind was just moving from this to this to this to this, and it's giving her all of this pleasure? Why would you want to slow that down?
I would not.
Well, then how do you know when you want to do that? Why would you ever do that?
Because they're so uncomfortable in their lives?
That's what we were asking.
Okay.
So
I
they're
didn't hear
lower
that.
half of the scale.
Yes,
And
yes.
they're out of control lower half of the scale.
Yes.
It's almost a biofeedback sort of thing.
Exactly. It
That
is
is discerning powerful trending that isn't serving them.
Right.
So would you say, because you know a lot about what we're teaching here, is what you're accomplishing sort of equivalent to quieting the mind as in meditation?
Absolutely.
So these are people who can't meditate.
They cannot.
That would have been a really good place to start here.
Okay.
They're people who want to quiet their mind because their minds are racing unproductively.
Right. Right.
And so after their mind is quieted and you see that, do they need this machine forever?
No. It's a 20 session where actually by the end of the 20 sessions or during it, I make sure they have something in their life, either meditation or listening to classical music. So it's helping them.
But our question is, and this
Yes.
is the part that you're really going to have to work on.
Okay.
Because it won't be long lasting. In other words, unless someone has offered a thought, felt a feeling, adjusted the feeling by producing a better thought, they don't have hold of anything that they can cause any deliberate positive trends. So while we agree with you, it's a nice thing to stop someone who can't go to sleep. It's a nice thing to give them some relief from that. Yes. But they won't be able to get the momentum going in the other way if they haven't known something that they were doing that. Do you see what we're getting at?
Absolutely, and I try during the sessions to start introducing a more wellness focus in their life.
Well, that would be a whole other set of sessions, we would say. In other words, if you're going to, we're going to be careful of the word because we are not disagreeing with what you're doing in any way. If you're going to artificially manipulate their vibrational frequency downward, then you're going to have to artificially manipulate their vibrational frequency upward, because their cork won't automatically float unless they have some association. In other words, that's the beauty of understanding your emotional guidance system.
Right.
You have an inner being who's calling you. And once the resistance stops, but the resistance stops because you've incrementally, are you seeing their corks starting to float once their resistance is stopped?
Oh, my God, absolutely.
Well, then you're onto something good. It's
miraculous, actually. And I needed, and why I wanted to speak with you is for the language, because this is a frequency level like a radio station. It's not higher or, the higher the better, the lower. I find on this very slow frequency that it is so slow that the brain can recognize itself. And that...
Well, what's happening is it's so slow that there's no resistant thought.
Right.
And they're making some connection with source energy. But we're very interested to know through your further development, because we have never, ever, ever encouraged anyone to hook themselves up to a contraption apart from their own guidance system. We want it to be an inside job, not an outside job. But you know enough about what we teach, and you're watching and feeling and paying attention to what you're doing here.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
It's the language. Everyone is saying, well, we don't know why it's working, but it's working. And I said, I know why it's working. It's vibrational. I know this is like an Abraham kind of situation.
But there's another step to it. It would be like going into meditation and quieting your mind, and then coming out of meditation and bumping up with the same people and having the same knee-jerk reactions that you've been having before.
Yeah, but I'm not seeing that happening. Things like veterans that are very angry and their families are walking around eggshells around them, and they'll come in and they say, my wife says I'm so different, that I'm much more calmer and more than, I would say, half a dozen have told me that their lives are are back, you know, that they...
Well, it's a nice thing to be soothed from trauma, for sure. And especially those that have known alignment before the trauma of war or the trauma of the injury. And so there is already some vibrational trending. But we are never offerers of caution. And so we are not offering these words in a guarded way. But we have talked to hundreds of people who have had contraptions that they were wanting to use in place of teaching utilization of what you were born with. And not one time ever have we encouraged it. Our encouragement to you is because of your unequivocal enthusiasm for it. But just keep in mind that you're wanting to dovetail with what they were born with, not replace it.
Absolutely.
That's our strong encouragement to you. And as long as you know that, then it has to be good. Enough? Yeah. Enough.
It's enough for here.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah, really good. Really good. So it makes everybody want to go there, right?